Hi everyone, it's Meloe. This week I worked on a little illustration in my sketchbook. I was inspired by a picture I saw on Pinterest and I kept seeing peaches everywhere on my Instagram feed, so that got me inspired. I started working on the sketch the first day and that took me a little while. Like I was saying in my last video, the process for a portrait or any figure drawing is a little different from my landscape paintings because I spend a lot of time on the actual sketch. I also like to take time to find different references for the sketch, whether it is for the posture or the clothes or the hairstyle. That's why it usually takes me a day or two to complete this kind of finished drawing. I find that's a good thing in a way because it allows me to have a fresh eye on what I've done the day before and to change anything if I don't like it. Once I was happy with the sketch, the next day I used my kneaded eraser to soften the line a little bit, and I used my trusty watercolor palette and I prepped all of my colors. To help me with that, I have a color wheel when I'm not sure of the combination. Knowing that the main element was the peaches, I took that as my base color and I checked what other colors I can have. Color can be a little overwhelming at first, so sticking to a limited color palette helps a lot. The complementary color of orange is blue, so I tried using like blues and greens to complement my oranges. I tasted the color on a piece of paper and then I used some drawing gun to cover the part that I wanted to keep without paint. I used that technique for another drawing I did this month and I really liked the results, so I reiterated the process. The first stroke is always very nerve-wracking, but once you start, I feel like the fact that you can't go back makes you more confident with your decision. I used the shape of the brush to help me with the shape of the leaves. I mainly focus on the silhouette of the greenery first. And while the paint was still wet, I added a darker green to blend it with the light one, so I had more contrast. I continued adding this darker green around the girl, first of all to have a background and also to have even more contrast between the portrait, the figure and the background, because the girl was going to be lighter. And then the last place I added more of that color is in the greenery. I added more of it to make it fuller. I really like the addition of the branch, which helps with the composition of the drawing I found. To create the texture, I just rely on the watercolor. While it was still wet, I added a more saturated brown at the bottom and it's just created this perfect blend and texture. I used the remaining of the brown to add to the basket. And then I started working on the figure. I used the orange that I prepared earlier with a lot of water to create the skin color. Then I added the blue-green for the dress, and I also added some shadows to the dress with a more saturated version of the same color. And then I rendered all of the shadows with the watercolor. For the shadow, I tried to pull a little bit of blue because I found that's the perfect color for the shadow, and also a little bit of green just because of the reflection of the greenery around her. Once I was happy with the shadows, I created some finer detail in watercolor for the basket and the hair. And this is the actual speed of my rendering. And I finally moved on to colored pencil. I have fabercastel watercolor pencil and prisma colored pencil. I usually never do a full illustration with just watercolor. I'm not that good with it yet, so the colored pencil let me add more details and especially more texture. The hair is usually the part that I like doing the most with colored pencil because I found that it brings a lot more life to the drawing. They also help to bring the sketch back because at this point I couldn't see the sketch anymore. It was all gone. That's why I always take a picture of my sketch before I start using any type of medium on top of it because of that. So I have the sketch next to me and I can like reference to my sketch and redraw the face. For the skin, I use mainly browns, pinks, and oranges. And I also use a little bit of green. I like the fact that with watercolor pencil, I could add more intricacy in terms of color. For example, like the more reflection on the elements, like the dress reflecting on the skin or the greenery reflecting on the clothes. Everything is not just one color, so I try to translate that in this drawing. I also added little like flowers on the shirt. I like the white part of it, but I felt like it was missing something, so I added that, which I found very cute. Here I just retook my watercolors to add the grass, and it was then finally time to remove the gum and to finish with the star of this drawing. To make the peaches, again, I let the watercolor do its magic. I wetted the paper and then I just put the 3 colors on the peach, that is orange, magenta, and yellow, and I just guided the colors a little bit, but the blend just happened on its own. And I used this technique for the rest of the page. I refined some peaches with some watercolored pencil, and that was it. Here is the drawing / painting of this week. Hope you like it. Don't forget to interact with this video as much as possible. You can see my work on Instagram as well, and if you haven't seen the last video, you can check it out. See you in the next one. À bientôt.